Hello, my name's Steve McHugh. I'm the author of the Helicon Chronicles and the Avalon Chronicles and other stuff that hasn't been published that might be hopefully published one day. And this is my very delayed Ask Me Anything. Very delayed. About 2 months maybe. The reason it's delayed is because I was writing a book. Thunder of War needed finishing, and it took longer than I thought it would. So, yeah, that's why this is delayed. This is my office. The noise you might be able to hear is the fan because it's baking today in Southampton in England. It's like 25 degrees, which I know isn't baking everywhere, but I'm from Yorkshire. Anything above 18 is baking. So yeah, it's and the sun comes through and just turns the office into a bit of an oven. So the fan's on. Hopefully it's not too intrusive, and if it is, just shrug, because it's baking in here. So the fan's on, and it's staying on. So yes, this is my office. Anyone who's seen the previous AMAs has seen this office before. The curtain's closed again because it is hot and the sun shines straight through. Which my bearded dragon over there is very happy about, and me less so. So yes, this is... I've got a list of questions here, which is why if I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm looking at a list of questions here. And the plan is at the moment I'm going to do this in 2 parts, because there are loads of questions. And I tend to waffle, and last time was like an hour and a half long, so I figure like, if I can do 2 45-minute ones, then that would be fine. We'll see. And also, if I don't say your name, if you ask the question and I say your name, it might be because lots of people have always all asked the same question, so I'll just ask the questions. And also, if I do say your name and I get it wrong, and I pronounce it wrong, then I do apologise. I'm a bit crap when it comes to pronunciation. And for anyone who is massively averse to swearing, tough. Because I guarantee I will swear at least once during this video. Because my kids aren't home, and I can sound like a drunken sailor on shore leave. Where should we start? Well, we'll start with the first question. That would probably be the best idea, wouldn't it? So, first question is from Legion, which is an awesome name. I hope it's real. I hope that's your real name. Do you have a name for the series after the Avalon Chronicles? Yes, I do. It's called the Rebellion Chronicles. At the moment it's called Rebellion Chronicles. These things change. Avalon Chronicles went about 5 different name changes before it actually became Avalon. So yeah, Rebellion Chronicles. Yep, that's what it is at the moment. From Dick. Is there a danger as the series progresses that the plots become so huge, involving Earth-destroying dilemmas, blood elves invading and magic publicised, that it is difficult to top in future books? Is it better to sometimes roll back to the pre-apocalyptic times? Well, I haven't gone to apocalyptic times yet. Slight spoilers for anyone who haven't read Scorched Shadows yet, but you know, Avalon are in charge of everything now, but they're not screwing around with everyone on Earth just yet. They're kind of concentrating on other things, which is sort of what the Avalon Chronicles is about. The fact that they're kind of it's not really about them wanting or needing to deal with Earth before they deal with other realms. Humans are fairly not really on their radar. There's lots of them, but you know, Arthur and Merlin and all those guys, they don't really see humans as anything more than things that slightly get in the way. And most of the people who you know, the evil one, mostly think of us as food or slaves or anything else that's horrific. So I'm not too worried about the post-apocalyptic stuff. As for, you know, Earth-destroying dilemmas and things like that, well, I don't really want to. It's not about topping what you did in the previous book. It's about making the story work for the book, for the story you want to tell. You know, I'm not trying to top what happened in Scorched Shadows or Promise of Wrath or any of the other books. And all went dark there. I'm not trying to top anything. I'm just writing whichever story works for whatever works for the story I want to tell. So it's not about trying to top it. Al, why did you decide not to include Lancelot in the Helen Chronicles? I was going to include him. He then says, I know he mentioned in Scorch with Silent Screams that he had betrayed Arthur, but nothing else is mentioned. Do you have any idea of what happened to him? Yes, he was going to be in Scorched Shadows. I had a whole subplot worked out for him for Scorched Shadows, and it just didn't work. It was massively overcomplicated. It made the book hugely, hugely long, and it just wasn't going to work. So, no, he got cut. But I do have plans for Lancelot. And the next question from Dave, which says, what happened to Guinevere? Also have plans for Guinevere. They will be in a future book. I haven't decided which one yet, but they will be in one. Trey, is Avalon on purpose to expand the universe, or did you need it to expand Nate's character? Well, the Avalon Chronicles' purpose is to expand the universe of everything that's happening within these stories. But it was also a couple of other things. One, after the end of Scorched Shadows, there needed to be something that told you about the world in which everyone found themselves whilst Nate was no longer a part of what they were trying to, what the resistance, or whatever you want to call it, were trying to achieve. So, yeah, it was to expand the universe. It was to give everybody else a bit of a shot at telling a different story. And I wanted to come up with a character like Layla, who had nothing to do with any of it and wasn't really. It was just a human, really, until it all kind of goes horribly wrong. And then her story throughout the 3 books involves a lot of things that we haven't really touched on with Nate, like the Norse gods and things like that. Charlie, do you find a difference writing for male or female protagonist? Well, yeah, it is different. In terms of, there are things that men and women do that the other don't. For the most part, I don't find it that difficult. If there's anything that I think, I wonder if a woman would do this, I ask my wife or my friends. So yeah, I don't really, I don't find it difficult to write women as a main protagonist. Layla was a bit harder to write than Nate, because Layla was also only 23 and a woman, and has very different likes and interests to things that I've ever been interested in. Which was kind of one of the reasons I wanted to write her, because she was essentially very different to things that I have an interest in. But I don't find it really difficult to write. No, not really. Simon, what influenced you to start writing? My English teacher, Mr. Piercy, influenced me to start writing, really. I used to read Choose Your Own Adventure books by Steve Jackson and Nina Livingston when I was like 12-ish, 11, 12, something like that. I read loads of them. And every week in English we'd have to write down what book we had read recently. And you had to read like a book a week or whatever it was. And all of mine were these Choose Your Own Adventure stuff. And Mr. Piercy took me aside and said, no, you can't, no. You need to read something that's going to challenge you. You can't just read the same thing over and over again. Go to the library next door, which was next to my English room class, and pick a couple of books. And I picked up David Gemmell and Terry Pratchett. And then my dad took me to the library. It might have been that night, day after, something like that. And I picked up Stephen King's It, which was wildly inappropriate for a 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy to pick up, by the way. And it wasn't something that anyone had... at no point did anyone say to me, this probably isn't for you, as a 13-year-old child. But it was fine. I read it, enjoyed it, read all 3, loved them. And they kind of made me realise that's what I wanted to do. And at the same time, not long after then, there was in Marvel Comics there was Age of Apocalypse, and that really kind of spurred me on to want to write. But then I kind of did nothing with it until my daughter, my first child, Kira, was born. I was 25, so 13 years ago, and I realised that it was kind of one of those shit or get off the pot moments. I'd always been one of those people who were like, one day I'm going to write a book, and I didn't, and I knew I had to. It's as simple as that. So I took it seriously, did my graft, lots of graft, years of graft, and yeah, it worked out okay in the end. Do you have a plan for all the books you've written, or has the readership influenced you to write more? I have. I know where the books are going to end. I know how they end. I know where they end. I know the title of the last book, although that probably will change because there's no way in hell they're going to let me publish it with that title. Yeah, I know. I know how it ends. I know what happens to Nate and Tommy and everybody else. I've not been influenced to write more books by fans or readers. People have asked for books specifically about characters, which has made me wonder, I wonder if I could do a story about them. But I haven't actually sat down and been like, this person asked for that story, so I'm going to write this story. It's just something that just starts sparking ideas in your head. Does it get difficult to write a new book when so much has happened that you need to keep track of continuity? Yes. God, yes. There is a question about continuity later that I'll answer in one specific problem that I have had lots of emails about. Yeah, it does. I have a spreadsheet. Hail spreadsheets. They're awesome. And they basically keep me from forgetting stuff. It doesn't always work. Nothing is infallible, but it works enough that I can not have to worry too much, hopefully. But yeah, it can be a bit tricky to keep track of exactly who did what and when. When will you be doing a signing? I don't know. I'm hoping I will be doing one not too distant future, but I don't know when that is. I'm sorry. Charlie. Will we get a book with Remy as a main character? No. It's unlikely. Not a full book. I think Remy works better as a side character to riff off of everybody else. However, I do have an idea for a Remy short story, along with loads of other characters' short stories. If I might write all of those, I probably will at some point write several of those. I don't know when, and I don't know what they'll be called, and I don't know when they'll happen. But no, not a full book. Yeah, no. Craig, will there be a book focused on Tommy? When he worked forever? No, not a full book. But I do have a novella kind of idea for him about when the werewolves and werelions were at war, which I'm quite looking forward to when he worked for the SOA. Raymond, I'm sure you mentioned it somewhere, but when does the storyline at the end of Scorched Shadows continue? Is the Avalon Chronicles that book, or another storyline set in the same universe? Right, Glimmer of Hope is 6 months before Scorched Shadows. Flicker of Steel is 18 months after Scorched Shadows? Ish. And Thunder of War is 2 years after Scorched Shadows. So that's it. They are. And then the first book in the Future 4 books series, that book takes place at exactly the same time as the Thunder of War. I moves on from there. Tony, my first question. Where do you get your character inspiration from? Do some traits or even looks come from people you know? No, not really. I don't really base them on people. There have been a few people who they know who they are, and I've based them just to murder them because they're friends of mine, and I think that's funny. And they think it's funny too. I'm not just murdering my friends and then just rubbing salt in the wound by telling them about it. They've either asked me to kill them off, or I've just thought it was funny, and they do too. But they don't. I don't write them as if it's that person, because, well, that would be odd. So yeah, it's not a. I don't do that. They're all made up. Yeah, I don't really. There have been a few people who I have named after people I don't like and killed off. But I'm not going to say who they are, because I might get in trouble. Trey, how did you start writing, and has the transition to a full-time writer changed you? How did I start writing? I just always wanted to do it, and then Kira was born, and I joined a writing group, online writing group, Kelly Armstrong's online writing group, and it was brilliant. I learned absolutely loads, and that was how I started. And how's the transition to a full-time writer? It's been pretty awesome, actually. It's been a bit exhausting. I've now been a full-time writer for 2 and a bit years-ish. And I have written 4 books in that time, I think. 5 books in that time. So it hasn't really changed a lot about me. I still sit and work most days. I don't work weekends so much anymore because I can spend it with kids and my wife. It kind of, I'm forced to stay in contact with friends more often. I suck at contact, and my friends who watch this will thoroughly agree with me. I am a bit shit at just picking up the phone and being like, "Hey, you want to go for a drink?" My brain doesn't work that way. So it kind of forces you to do that. Otherwise, you just sat in an office all day working, and that's not really the most exciting thing in the world. Even when you're doing something you love, at the end, you don't just want to do nothing else. But it hasn't really changed me at all, really. I'm more relaxed than I probably was when I worked for a living. Certainly, I don't miss rush hour traffic. My commute to work is a good 10 seconds, which is roughly how long I could stand being in rush hour traffic before I lost my rag. So yeah, no, that's other than that, it's not really at all. Camden, what other books similar to yours do you enjoy reading? Jim Butcher, Kelly Armstrong. Don't know. There's I'm not great with author names unless I've met the person. The Rivers of London books are really good. See, I tend to read stuff like Jen Williams, Anna Stevens, Brandon Sanderson, more fantasy is what I'm getting at. Fantasy and science fiction than urban fantasy so much. But certainly Kelly Armstrong and Jim Butcher are the 2 big urban fantasy writers that I love their work, and I probably should have prepared a better answer and given you a huge list of names. And the Rivers of London, Ben. I should Google it, but then you just see me typing and it would be a bit weird. So yeah, no, it was. See, I'm just going to type it. I'll tell you what. Urban fantasy authors. He's bound to be in there, isn't he? I am shit at this, I know. Ben Aronaskovich. There you go. So yeah, they're the people who I tend to read quite a lot of. I like most. Uh, you know, other than that, I read a lot of John Connolly and Lee Child and thrillers and things like that. So it's not a I don't read too much urban fantasy, if I'm honest. Lester, do you really think Final Fantasy X is boring? I was actually playing the game when Mordred said that. No, I quite like Final Fantasy X. Mordred doesn't. I do. It was alright. 9 is best, and you feel free to be wrong and disagree with me, but 9 is best. And then 7, and then probably 6, and then 8, and 12. I really like the story of 12, it's really cool. So 10 is probably top 7-ish. Well, no, I like it. I remember playing it back on the PS2 and really enjoying it. So yeah, no, liked it. Elisa, when you write, how do you build your story? Do you map the rough plot lines and endings before creating detail? Or do you have a vague idea and see where it takes you? More the latter of those two. It's in the middle. I know the ending of the book before I start it. I know where it begins, I know where it ends, I know the main plot points that I want to touch on. So it might be a fight scene, it might be a just an action scene, it might be a romance, anything. Just I know these. There are a couple of scenes I want to have. It might just be a character chatting scene or something. But what tends to happen is that I'll know how it starts, so I'll write that first chapter, and then by the time I get to the end of the first chapter, I know the second chapter starts. By the time I start the second chapter, I'll know how I want it to end, so that I know how the third chapter should start. Now that doesn't always work, if I'm honest, but most of the time it works well for me. I don't like detailed plots because I would ignore it. Plotting because I would ignore them. I tried it with Silent Screams and I hated it. Book came out okay in the end, but I hated it, so I'm not doing it again. So yeah, I'm kind of in between a plotter and pantser, which is what it's called. I don't know why. Oh, I do know why, but it's a stupid word. Right, Sarah. Is Remy modelled predominantly on a real human? Do they know about it? Me, actually. Remy is everything that I think, and never say, essentially. If he says something to piss somebody off, or says something that's sarcastic or smart-assy, that's probably something I would think, but probably not say out loud. So that's kind of what Remy's kind of my id. He's sort of my my way of just spouting shit without ever really getting in trouble with spouting shit to people. So yeah, that's Remy's not based on any. They would be a dreadful person to be around for more than 5 minutes. They would just be a nightmare. So yeah, he's just what I think is funny when I'm talking to people and I'm like, "You're a dick." But I don't say you're a dick, obviously, because that would be rude, and I'm British and we're not rude. But I think you're a dick. So, and Remy would just say it. Dawn, what character is the most fun to write? Remy is the most fun to write. He's just freeing. Akala also, great fun. Love writing Akala. Hades, Casey. Yeah, there's loads of really good characters. I think they're good characters anyway. That I really enjoy writing. I really like writing Abaddon because she's evil, and yeah, that's a lot of fun. I liked writing Elias, who was in Glimmer of Hope as well. He was a lot of fun to write. Which one most reflects you? The character that most reflects me is Tommy, and it's not even close. It's Tommy. He has a very similar personality to me, apart from the werewolf thing, obviously. He's not. I'm not quite so overprotective of my kids as he is of Casey. But yeah, no, he's mellowing over the years as well. And no, Tommy. Still Dawn. Dreamcast, if Helical made into TV miniseries, I genuinely have no idea. I've been asked this a lot over the years. I don't know. I know one thing. Nate, when I write Nate, I imagine Anthony Starr, who played Lucas Hood in Banshee. Everything else, I kind of go nuts. Whoever you want it to be. But Anthony Starr is who I see in my head. And that kind of Lucas Hood kind of character is kind of... He plays that kind of character quite well. And Nate's kind of similar in tone to Lucas in some ways. Also, how do you like your tea? If it's black tea, just milk. A little bit, tiny bit of milk. If it's green tea, a little bit of sweetener. And that's it. I don't drink I drink white tea, but again, a little bit of sweetener, because otherwise it can be really bitter. Yeah, exciting tea talk. Rod, I've had a question that I've wondered since halfway through Crimes Against Magic. Have any of your character personalities been influenced by actual people in your life? If so, who's your favourite person to write for and include into your universe? No. Bizarrely, I wrote Promise of Wrath. And afterwards, a friend of mine, who I've known for a very, very long time, and he will know who he is if he sees this video, came up to me and said, "Thank you very much for writing me in your book as Mordred." I was like, "I did what?" He said, the Mordred in your book is essentially how I behave. And I was just, yeah, he is a bit. Yeah. Not everywhere, but there are certain personality traits that Mordred has, that my friend has. Which was pretty funny, because I didn't think of it at the time. But I haven't specifically gone out to write anybody as somebody. No. Richard, are we going to get a book or short story with Human Only Nate? Yeah, the first book in the new series, Rebellion Chronicles, is Human Nate. The whole thing is human. Well, not the whole thing, obviously, but the main story will be Human Nate. It's him in Clockwork and all the shit that he manages to cause whilst he's there. Paul, what does mind magic entail? And what colour are its runes? Red, off the top of my head. And mind magic is telepathy, telekinesis, and that sort of thing. Mordred has a very interesting, in my mind, it's a very interesting way of doing mind magic, which is that his mind can't be fucked with. And he's just kind of this passive, always-on power, which is rare. But most of the time it's telepathy, telekinesis, screwing around someone's head, making them see things that aren't there, that sort of thing. Lee, how far ahead do you think about the mythology you use and how it intertwines with one another? Do you have a database to plan out how it all works? I have a spreadsheet to plan out how it all works. As for the mythology side of things, usually when I start writing a book, and I've got a rough idea of what I want the story to be, I then figure out what mythologies to use. Promise of Wrath was a piece of cake. That was always Mesopotamian. That was just that's one of those mythologies I always wanted to work with and use. So yeah, I kind of know who I want in the book. Flicker of Steel, I knew I wanted Hades to play a prominent part of the book. So he does. And things like that. So I kind of decide at the beginning who from mythology or what mythological kind of pantheon I want to play around with. So yeah, and then so that's kind of how that works. Yeah. Nick, how much of a plot history do you plan before writing? I answered that earlier, but not hugely. Just a rough kind of outline of what I think will happen. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes we might never see and hear about, but it's important for the story. But yeah, loads. Just tons of stuff. There's just tons of background information on people and and little bits and pieces and things which never make it into a book and would never make it into a book. But yeah, you know, how one character met another character 200 years ago and pissed him off, and that's why they don't like each other now, and this has happened, this has happened. It's just, loads of bits like that. And they would never make it into the book because it would just be a huge slog to read through all of that. But so yeah, there is quite a lot. Louise, does music influence your writing? And if so, are there pieces that link in with parts of your book? Right, I think we're going to do this as last question, and then we'll call it quits, and then we'll do the rest and next week, I imagine. Yeah, it certainly, I guess it influences. I mean, I listen to a lot of music whilst I'm writing, mostly soundtracks to video games and TV shows and anime and things like that. So things like Halo 3 and God of War and Gears of War and quite a lot of indie stuff. And then I listen to stuff like Two Steps from Hell and the soundtrack to Dread. Oh yes, soundtrack to Dread, wonderful, wonderful soundtrack. And all of that kind of depending on the mood I'm in and the stuff I'm writing, depends on what sort of stuff I want to listen to. Dread is very much a soundtrack that I put on when I'm having a real heavy kind of sort of action scene and lots of violence is happening. I don't know if it specifically influences it, but it's certainly something that I need to have on when I'm writing. Sometimes I have music words in, but I tend to just drown them out in my head. So I've put an album on and then completely switched off as I've been working, and then the album's finished and I'll be like, oh well, I listened to none of that because I've been working. But I do like having music on when I write because I just enjoy it. I just find that that's something that can help really get you into the mood of the scene or the character or whatever you're trying to do, or whatever I'm trying to do, should I say. Yeah, so I do like to have music on. Right, so we're going to call it quits there because that is now 32 minutes. I will do the other one next week, and at the end of the other one I will have some sort of competition. I'll give away a couple of copies of Glimmer of Hope, the hardback of Glimmer of Hope signed, or I have copies of the MP3 down there, so I'll sign those or I'll sort something out. So yes, so if you have any questions or just comments or anything, then I guess put it in the comment section on YouTube and I will reply or ignore depending on what you say, really, as is the way in life. So yes, and I hope you enjoyed it because that was good fun, and the next one will probably be about the same length, and I'll see you guys soon.